What is up, you guys? It is Jazz, and I am a pediatric correctional nurse, aka a children's jail nurse, aka you could also just call me a juvie nurse. And in today's video, I'm going to be explaining to you my top reasons of why I love working in this area, my pros of the field, if you will. Okay, so one of the biggest pros for me working in corrections is that obviously it's just something that's outside of the hospital. Ever since I was in nursing school, I very quickly realized I would not make a good fit as a hospital nurse. And so before I even graduated from nursing school, it was always my intention to not work in a hospital. So one thing I really like is that this is a very unique and interesting area that just has so many possibilities within it and is something outside of the hospital. Our next pro about working in corrections is that, at least based on my opinion, I think it is a lot safer than working in a hospital. And hear me out. You're probably like, how could working in a jail or a prison be safer than working in a hospital? And I think kind of our first reaction to hearing about these facilities is to assume that they're not safe. However, let me just point out that in pretty much any hospital, almost anybody can gain entrance into that building and move around through that building without ever, being stopped or questioned what they're doing by anyone. And so hospitals can become a place that's almost targeted, you know what I mean? Versus in a correctional facility, the entrance and exit of every person in and out of this facility is monitored. And the only people coming in and out are people who either work at the facility or are detained in the facility. So someone can't just walk into my jail off of the street and gain entrance into my facility. Second reason being, because it is a correctional facility, because I do work in a jail, there are cameras everywhere. There's cameras everywhere. You can't do anything in my facility without a camera seeing you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's cameras and extra security all over the place just because of the fact that it is a correctional facility. You also can't get through just about any door without having a badge. So even if someone were to try to make a break or run for it, it's hard to get very far without having a badge to get in and out of doors. And lastly, on top of that, at my facility, anytime I interact with a patient, I have correctional officers, or COs as I'll call them. I have COs with me at all times whenever I am interacting with patients. So basically, anytime I interact with a patient, I have at least one personal bodyguard, you could call them or think of them like, versus in the hospital, you don't have anyone, protecting you as you move around that hospital, just specifically to make sure you're okay. You're just kind of, with your patients, and you could get assaulted by patients. Many nurses get assaulted by patients. You could have all these different issues, and you would have to call security to come to you. Versus me, if I'm interacting with a patient, someone is already there with me. Another pro of working in corrections, at least in my facility, is that you have relatively healthy patients, right? So when we think about hospital nurses, most units in hospitals are for people who are sick, recovering from something. They are unhealthy or ill or unwell in some way, and that's why they went to the hospital in the first place. This is very different than working in a jail. Most of my kids have to be pretty healthy in order to stay in our facility. Many correctional facilities will have in-house infirmaries, but my jail does not have an infirmary. And so if our kiddos are not well enough to stay in their rooms, in their housing unit, they're getting sent out to the ER. We don't have a sick ward, we don't have an infirmary, we don't have any of that. So if they cannot stay within their housing unit safely, you're out to the ER. Given this, at my facility, all of my kids are relatively healthy. This is something I really appreciate and don't take for granted. I'm surrounded by people who are energetic. These are kids. I work with teenagers, so they're pretty healthy. They're bouncing around, they're energetic, they're goofy, they're having a good time. It just is a way different energy taking care of relatively healthy patients versus patients who are very sick and you're literally, fighting to keep them alive. On to the next pro. More nursing autonomy. In my facility, we do not have providers that are there 24/7. We have providers that are on call all the time, obviously, and then they do come in a couple of days a week for appointments. But other than that, it's just the nurses that are there. And because of this, that is just the nurses there, and because I work in a public health role where I literally have about 200 kids in my facility at any given time, we can't be calling our provider for every little thing we need. And so our nursing company has what is called a set of professional nursing protocols, where it's pretty much just almost any common condition you could think of that you would run into. It's going to literally list like the definition, you know, signs and symptoms of it, and it's going to list as the nurse things that we can do and implement without getting any orders from the provider. As long as it is within our professional nursing protocols, we can go ahead and just start that. And so for most of our most common things that we see day to day, we can then just use our nursing protocols to start medication orders, to start other treatments without ever having to verbally reach out to our provider in that moment. So an example of this may be like if a kid has diarrhea, there are certain medications written in our protocols that we can go ahead and start the order for it. You just have to make sure that the orders you put in are written directly as they are in the nursing protocols, and we're good to go. This is something I really like because having more nursing autonomy, it really forces you to kind of make decisions more on your own. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not working in a critical care area of nursing, and so the decisions I'm making are usually, you know, they're not life and death decisions. They're usually less serious decisions. And as a relatively newer nurse, because this was only my second nursing position, I really do like this nursing autonomy that we have at my job because it really helped me to kind of step out of my comfort zone a little bit more. On to the next pro. So this one is probably kind of unique to my facility and my position in general, but the next pro for me is that I get to work alone. So at my facility, because it is a bit of a smaller facility, our night shift only has one nurse on staff. And so every night when I go to work, I'm the only nurse there. If anything happens where they need medical, I'm the person they're calling. During the daytime, we do have more nurses because, you know, it's kind of busier, but you know, that's just kind of the nature of how my facility goes. It's just me at night, and I actually really like it. Don't get me wrong, I do like teamwork. I like other nurses, being around other nurses, but like I said, when I came into this position, I was still kind of relatively a newer nurse, and so I think that working by myself, along with, you know, the added nursing autonomy that we have in my facility, really helped me to grow a lot in this role. It also gave me the ability to have the time to really find my flow of how I want to schedule my work day and kind of move about and get things done. If I had someone that I was working with at night, I'm such a chatter, and so I know that I would just talk a lot more. I wouldn't get as much done, and so it really gave me an opportunity to have that time to myself to just learn and focus and hone in and get really good at my position. Longer continuity of care. Okay, so obviously this widely kind of varies because some kids that come to our facility are literally only there for a couple days. But on the other hand, because it is a jail and these kids are being detained for crimes, some of them are there for a very long time. And so there are some kids that when I started a year ago, they were there and they're still there now. And even kids who haven't been there for a whole year, they'll be there for many months. And so it's nice for me, not that they're there for a long time, but it's nice for me because I get that opportunity to see them again and again and really start to develop relationships with these kids. And I think that with my children in particular at my facility, good, healthy, strong relationships with them and adults that are good role models are things that they really, really need. And so I kind of feel like it's an honor that I get to be a nurse that takes care of these kids over a longer period of time versus, you know, if I was maybe a med-surg nurse and you only have a patient for a couple days, you might have them for your stretch of 3 days, and then by the time you come back next week, you have all new patients. So that is something I have really liked because it allows for greater relationship building over time. Okay, the next pro is that work is like a movie, y'all. Like, my job, I really get a kick out of it because we goof around in there. It's jail. Jail is rugged, is real. It doesn't sugarcoat shit. So going and working in a jail every day is definitely a very unique environment, but what I do like about it is you really get to just, I get to act like myself. You know what I'm saying? What other pediatric nursing setting would I get to walk into and act just how I act at home? Probably none. But that is the pro of working in corrections, working in jail, baby. I just get to be Jazz. You know what I'm saying? Jazz at home is just like Nurse Jazz at my jail. And every day is unique there. You meet very unique children. You meet very unique adults that work there with you as well, because to be in this area, I feel like it kind of has to be a calling a little bit, because not everyone can work in this area, and not everyone is meant to. So I feel like, just like me, I think I'm a very interesting, unique individual. So many of the people I work with just seem to be, you know, amazing, unique individuals. So going there every day is really like a movie. I wish I had like a little bumblebee drone that could just fly over my shoulder with me all day and record from my point of view and turn this into a TV show, because I'm telling you, this show will be a hit. The next pro about being a correctional nurse is that you get to tell cops what to do and they have to listen to you. All right, y'all, so this one is, you know, it's kind of a joke, but in all seriousness, when children get brought into our facility, dropped off by the cops, as the nurse, we have the final say of whether that child can stay in our facility and be accepted right then, or if they need to be sent right back out and go to an ER with whoever brought them to get medical clearance for incarceration. Now, there are some cops that are great. You know, you tell them, okay, we need to get this kid cleared. It's no problem, whatever, da da da. There are other cops that just, they don't care about these kids. Like, you can tell they just look at them like criminals. They don't really care. And they look at it like a waste of time to bring them over to get medical attention and get them fully cleared to make sure that they're good to stay in our facility. Even to the point where sometimes, there's been multiple times where cops will try to bring a kid in. I will tell them, okay, you need to get them brought for clearance, and then bring them back. However, they were not going to be detained in our facility. These kids were just non-detained, which means they were just going to get booked into the system and could get released, you know, right after that, as soon as everything, you know, gets into the system. Many times I've noticed that when cops will bring in children who are under that category of non-detained, if you try to send them to get medical clearance, they don't come back. You want to know why? Because they'd rather just write a citation, write a little ticket, drop the kid back off at home or Lord knows where, and go on about their day, versus taking an extra hour or two or however long it's going to take to bring this child to the hospital, knowing that that child could be released, you know, in less than that time. And so it's really sad. They'd rather just write a ticket and let them go versus bring them to receive medical attention. But before I said they needed medical attention, you wanted to bring them in and get them booked on this charge, right? So it's just kind of sad. Like I said, some of them are great, but there's a lot that are really not. And I am just very grateful that because of my education and background, I have the final say. So it doesn't matter how long they want to sit and argue with me. It doesn't matter what sergeant or whoever else above them they want to call. It doesn't change anything. What I say goes. And you, sir, will be going right back out that door and taking this child to the hospital if you want them to stay in this facility with me. Have a good one. All right, you guys, so I'm going to leave you with that. That is going to be the end of our list of pros for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. Please make sure to share this video with people who might be interested, because I do really want to be a resource for other people who are interested in this area. I did already post a few videos about this area of nursing, the last one being a Q&A video. Make sure to check out my Q&A video that answers kind of the most common questions I get about working in this area of nursing. And let me know what else you guys want to know, what else you guys want to see. Thank you so much for taking this time out of your day to hang out with me and watch this video. It truly, truly means a lot from the bottom of my heart. I love you all so much. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.